Tell them we getting money. Bitches gon' act like they love us, gon' cheat for the bag on. Tell them we getting money. Young niggas flexing, we flipping the bag on. Tell them we getting money. You disrespecting, we dropping the bag on them.
Groups that actually get money don't have to make songs about getting money. I grow tired of the type of people who come in my comment section and they bitching about, I grew up in the suburbs and how they grew up in the real black community because the inner city and the poverty that exists in the inner, that's where real black culture is derived. Like, these fucking morons come into my comment section and don't understand or don't comprehend that if you fix the very situation that we're talking about, all this ADOS, reparations for slavery, all these other financial incentives, black people having access to capital and all that other shit, everything that currently exists in the black community would not exist. Even these hotep niggas and supposed pro-blacks that constantly come off like they represent the real black community. What is the real black community? I mean, seriously, what is it? The real black community is a community that is predicated off of a lack of resources. That is what the real black community is. And for some reason, it doesn't click with them that once you solve the economic issue, the culture will change. This is the same argument that white people try to make, in reverse, where they try to say that, the problem with the black community is black culture, as opposed to the lack of access to capital and the access to resources. Black people have a culture that is defined by a lack of resources. When you have a lack of resources, you make adjustments. When you can't define yourself by wealth and resources and money and shit like that, you no longer define yourself by, wealth and resources. You define yourself by other things: swag, charisma, who's the realest motherfucker out, who has the most clout in the streets, who put that work in terms of, illegal activity. That's what you pride yourself on. And the irony is the focus still revolves around money. It's just through an illegal path, which changes and essentially corrupts the whole dynamic of the aspect of money and wealth creation and legacies and generational wealth. Ain't no drug dealers running around talking about, they got to pass this drug money on and have a legacy of children that are the byproducts of, their drug dealing actions. Nobody's taking their drug dealing money and putting it into some what do you call that shit? Some sort of whether it's bonds or futures or investing it in some other way. Typically, they don't do that because they'll get caught up. They got to be IRS will jump down their throat. They got to be accountable for how they made the money. They don't even know how to launder it right. It's just frustrating. Putting it in a trust, that's the word that I was looking for. Putting it in the trust for their kids. I'm not saying nobody's doing it, but pound for pound, no. They get caught. Most of these guys barely got bail money. So, it irritates me, these people that come into the comment section and they're bitching about, oh, nigga, you grew up in the burbs. The burbs were essentially, all the intelligent people are trying to get to. Whether you want to call it, would be wonderful if we could have the burbs in the black community. Hell, the burbs wouldn't even be the burbs if black people had wealth and we were able to live and sustain ourselves in our environments and essentially, turn our black communities where we reside and where we live into, what white people turn it into when they go off and they gentrify a neighborhood. Right? It's the same area. You're right next to downtown. It's the same spot. What makes it so magical? What makes it so great and so wonderful and so safe and plush when white people move in there? Why is it restaurants and everything else and that all these entertaining venues? Why is it they all of a sudden pop up when white people move there? Is it just because they're white? Is it just based off of whiteness? It's white culture? No, it's based off of the fact that they come in there with substantial amount of resources and are able to implement the ideas that they have when it comes to gentrifying a community. Damn, niggas is so dumb, man. I swear, I get these idiots that come into my comment section and they ask, man, represent the streets, nigga. You represent the streets, man. We over here, we on some woke shit, nigga. You ain't really from the black community. All that dumb shit. And this is in part, what helps to keep black people stagnant in their in trying to get out of this, because too many black people, they want to keep one foot in the bullshit and one foot out. Again, the same argument I make about the women who want to have the benefits of patriarchy without having any of the cons. Want to find some way to get men to basically be chattel labor and do all the work, where women get to come through and run shit and be the leaders of some shit. And you got black people, they literally think that, yeah, if white supremacy just gave us reparations and then we had the resources to do what we want to do, we'd be good. And then they want to be like ghetto fabulous and shit. They want to still somehow, live in the ghetto, go out and buy a flashy, Mercedes Benz or some shit like that, park it right in front of the row home. People are backing up the truck with a Newport truck and whatnot. It's just dumb shit, nigga shit. And that's what they think that, a better and thriving black community would look like. There's a lot of corny EL shit that's baked in there that a lot of black folks don't want to do. They're like, yeah, now that we have access to capital, sorry, but you're gonna have to get up 5 o'clock in the morning every morning to open up your store, your business. Okay? You're gonna have to spend, possibly 10 hours a day, in your business or monitoring your business, whether it's on location or from your laptop. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to sit there and make sure you're counting up shit and making sure, that your employees that a lot of us don't want to pay, are not stealing from you. You're going to have to sit there and have to do that shit. You're going to have to come up with even to stock your store. You're going to have to, come up with the $20,000 of just inventory. Like, I've already seen the process. The vendors, they don't go in there and buy individual stuff that they have for the store. No, the vendors come in and they're like, and they have, everything picked out, and they just go in there and they just start stocking the shelves. And then the person writes a $20,000 check, and then, everything, however they want to mark it up, whatever price they want to make it, all that is profit. That's how the shit is set up. There's whole intricacies when it comes to, having an intact community when black people have resources. It is concerning to me that, if you did just drop reparations on black people, a lot of black people don't have the proper mindset. They've been in poverty for so long, prolonged exposure to poverty. You know what I mean? Like once you got, and this is the crazy thing, is this is exactly what Ice Cube addressed at the very end of, his contract with Black America. Addressing the fuckery, talking about we got to change the music, talking about how we have to, change, the way that we're oriented. Like, you don't just get the money and then just squander it on a bunch of bullshit. Just everything from, no, Keisha, you are not going to be able to have, kids beyond the amount of resources we have. Okay. No, you're going to have, you make sure that, your kids are going and getting the proper education, things like, being dedicated to your children, and, setting up stuff so that they have a future, so that they're not subject to the authority or whims of other groups. There's a whole, no, you cannot do what the fuck you want to do whenever you want to do it. Like, there's a whole bunch of shit in interpersonal relationship that's going to require discipline, that all this freedom that people feel that they have, which it ain't really freedom. What it really is you got a whole bunch of fucking time on your hands and you ain't got no goddamn money. And so, as a result, you go out there with the thinking that, if you have money that you be, able to do more of what you want to do without the discipline. I'm like, I'm sorry, but life just doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like if you have money to manage, you're trying to maintain that position. And see, that's the whole problem with a lot of black folks, is we don't understand maintaining anything, maintaining wealth, maintaining power, because essentially we've never had it. So we don't know what it is to maintain. That's why you see all these white folks, even the white folks that are piss poor, ain't got a pot to piss in. That's why you see them, always talking about some preservation of life, right? Black people, what are black people actually trying to preserve? I hear all this talk about preserving black culture and all this other stuff, but what are we actually preserving? Our black culture is currently predicated on a lack of resources. That is what everybody is sitting up here talking about, what black culture is. The closer you go back to, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you go back to, the 20th century, the early parts of the 20th century, what people are considering to be black culture really essentially is closer to white culture. When you go back and you look at those black and white photos from the 19 teens and all the way up until the 1950s and stuff, like, you don't see no sagging pants in there. You don't see anything in there outside of a zoot suit. You don't see anything in there that is drastically different from white society. Now, I understand why a lot of black people reject that and everything, because black people did try to assimilate and be accepted by white people, and white people gave black people their ass to kiss. So a lot of black people are like, man, fuck that. We doing our own thing. We're operating by the beat of our own drum. All that stuff. That's what a lot of black people are doing, because essentially, they're like, there's no payoff. We're not going to be accepted. There's no payoff. We might as well operate by the beat of our own drum. And I'm not even completely opposed to that. I'm like, okay, fine, cool. Operate by the beat of your own drum. Where I have a problem is where a lot of you all try to drag in and bring in a lot of other bullshit. You don't even realize how much it's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? All this shit of being, I'm just going to have to charge that underneath my belt. I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it 100. I'm keeping it $1. And basically all that says is basically you don't give a fuck about screwing other people over. You don't give a fuck about burning other people. You don't give a fuck about, your reputation as it pertains to that. You cannot have a functioning, thriving, intact black community without trust. Name a community where you got Asians that don't trust each other on a basic level. And I'll say this, because people will say, Asians will jump up and they'll say, oh, well, we have our own internal problems. Yes, you have your own internal problems. You have your own internal class warfare. But at the end of the day, you trust other Asians more than you trust black people or any other ethnic group. Same thing with Indians. Same thing with Hispanics. Same thing with white folks. They fuck with their own before they fuck with anybody else, which is why their communities are intact, and black people's communities, aside from us not having access to resources, is in shambles. I don't know what it is that we don't understand about that. If you're going to have an intact community, you're going to have to be able to freaking work with your own and create opportunities for your own, and that is what you're going to have to do. And that requires, you gotta give a shit. You can't sit there and be on some, you screwed somebody over some money and be on some, but can this nigga beat my ass type of shit. Can't do that. Yeah, nigga, I took your money, so the fuck what? Can't do that. So people talk about, they want the benefits of an intact community. Why don't black people do X, Y, and Z? And why don't black men do X, Y, and Z? But yet, y'all don't want to walk through the details of the intricacies of a whole bunch of shit that currently right now, people will jump up and shout out, that it's lame. Oh, this is lame. That's lame. All this is lame. And I'm like, all that quote unquote lameness, all that, aspects of integrity, that's what you're going to need in order to have an intact community and maintain that level of trust where people consistently fuck with you before they start going out there looking, talking about, all this stuff with coons and black people talking about coons. You know why there's so many coons in the black community? Because the black people that are cooning recognize that they can get more from white folks than they can get with fucking with black people. Until that changes, you are going to continue to have coons and Uncle Toms and everything else. Until black people can get more from their own than they can get from any other group, you are going to continue to have sellouts and people who throw other black people underneath the bus because they don't see the benefits of working and dealing with other black people. On top of the fact that until you have consequences for those people, which is usually tied to resources or access to capital and economic opportunities, we're going to still have coons and Uncle Toms in the black community. That's a fact. So until black people are comfortably eating off of one another, we are going to continue to have, this sort of, POW sellout situation, where the Viet Cong comes through. You know what I mean? Last night, 2 prisoners tried to escape. Now, whoever gives up the prisoners that tried to escape, I will give 3 pieces of chocolate to. Right? And that's how, and then the person's like, the other, people are starving and whatnot. And as a result, they start snitching on their comrades and shit. No, he did it, just to get 3 pieces of chocolate. You see what I'm saying? That's that POW camp shit. And that's not going to end until, and maybe, maybe I'm asking it's too early. Maybe I'm asking for black people to operate and behave in a manner that they can't operate and behave until they get the money running through their fingers. But I still worry about that initial phase of access to capital, that initial phase of reparations for slavery and whatnot, where again, a lot of us don't have the proper mindset in order to handle that situation appropriately and not squander it. This is why I continue to say that what black people need is their own schools. They need gender-specific, all-male schools, all-female schools that have a militaristic undertone. Not black militant, but militaristic, like the way that the military does shit. You got a chain of command. You know what I mean? You fuck up, there's consequences to be paid. Give me 20 push-ups, whatever the hell it may be, to instill this level of discipline. Right now, it's totally fucked up. And as a byproduct of prolonged exposure to poverty, the culture is fucked up. And yet I got people coming through constantly, every now and again, that want to sit there and act like they exist in real black culture, and their existence in what they consider real black culture is black people's prolonged exposure to poverty and lack of access to capital. But that's the real black community. Let them tell it. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.